Sonic the Hedgehog's real name is not Maurice, and if you thought it was, you're not wrong so much as just your information's out of date. How do I know? Well, because Sonic the Hedgehog has been a special interest of mine since like 1995, so let's get into it. Plus, I'm also a comic book historian. I have a certificate. I research this stuff for fun. I've been seeing a lot lately people just popping into random Sonic videos with this tidbit of information of Sonic's real name is Maurice. And for like a brief period of time, sure, but no. So to give you history on this, in 1993, the Sonic the Hedgehog comics started with the Archie Comics Adventure series. They really didn't understand the property that they had at the time. They were just sort of going, oh, okay, cartoon talking animals, like we'll make a silly, goofy story. A lot of the writers didn't really understand that in the 1990s, Sonic was supposed to be like the coolest guy you had ever met, and they just kind of made him a nerd. So, in the original issue 0 of Sonic the Hedgehog, this throwaway line was written. It was just a goofy little joke. Sonic meets Princess Sally for the first time. She is the leader of the rebellion as their entire world is being destroyed by Robotnik, aka Eggman later. And she says to Sonic, not knowing him yet, I hope you can keep up with me. And he replies, ha, Speed is my middle name. Actually, it's Maurice, but don't tell anybody that. And so you'd think this one-off joke would just like die. It's literally issue 0. It's a pilot issue in a like short mini-series before the actual series even began. Characters aren't even colored correctly in this original issue. This is how not canon it was from the start, and it gets increasingly less canon as things go on. So the first instance of Sonic's middle name being Maurice is in 1993. We're going to fast forward to 1997 when issue 53 comes out. So it has been more than 50 issues since we've even mentioned the name Maurice. It comes up again. There's this whole story arc where they have regained their city. All of their roboticized parents are back. They're made into robots. Anyway, it's comic book stuff. And Sonic's father shows up and starts calling him Maurice, to which everybody's like, is he talking to you? And Sonic's just like dying of teenage embarrassment. And so then this guy named Antoine starts making fun of Sonic for his middle name being Maurice. Quick pause for a disclaimer here. I'm about to kind of make fun of a lot of names here. No shade to anyone who may actually have these names. The text itself made fun of these names. So the guy named Antoine was constantly being razzed by Sonic. You need to understand that by this point. So he's just, absolutely on top of any moment he can to just harass Sonic back. So he just starts laughing hysterically, and he's like, how could that possibly be your name? And then Sonic's dad is like, well, that's his middle name, actually. His real first name is, and gets interrupted. And Sonic's like, no, my name is Sonic, period. End of discussion. And Antoine runs off laughing to like go tell everybody. And that's the last we ever hear of Maurice. And this comic book runs for almost 300 issues. And the really, really ironic part about it is that the writer Ken Penders, who included this whole joke of Sonic's dad coming and calling him Maurice, he had nuked the canon in the first place that made his name Maurice, because as I said, that was in issue 0. Just 10 issues before this scene where Sonic's dad shows up and starts calling him that, Ken Penders rewrote how Sonic and Sally met. And it was revealed, no, they like knew each other since they were children. There was no way they stumbled across each other at like 14, 15 in the woods and were like, oh, hey, let's join a rebellion. In this new canon, they were childhood best friends. We were shown that they are running around together as little tiny, tiny children when like the world gets overthrown. So, and this particular writer, Ken Penders, is notorious for bragging that he never played a Sonic game and never read anybody else's stuff, but somehow he knew the Maurice thing and he like wanted to run with it, I guess. And that'll be fine and well, except he was on the comics from 1993 to 2006, and he never talked about what Sonic's actual real name was supposed to be, but he kept hinting, oh yeah, he's got like a real name, he's got a real name. And then he tries to J.K. Rowling us with it later on Twitter. He's like, what I always intended Sonic's real name to be is Ogilvy. So he was supposed to be Ogilvy Maurice Hedgehog, according to Ken Penders. Now, mind you, because of an entire thing that happened where Ken Penders sued for the rights to his own characters, which no shade because the comic book industry is rough, but because he sued for the rights of his own characters, a lot of the stuff that he wrote was just nuked from canon entirely before the series even ended. They had to do like a soft nuke and then just a full reboot because of these lawsuits. So Sonic's middle name being Maurice is mentioned a total of twice in the entire series. Things that are nuked, the canon is erased as we go. And yet people still cling to this idea that Sonic's real name is Maurice. And the other thing that you really have to take into account when you hear information like that is there's multiple canons of Sonic the Hedgehog. You cannot take the Sonic the Hedgehog movies and expect the story to be the same as any of the Sonic the Hedgehog cartoons, as any of the Sonic the Hedgehog comics, as any of the games. The comics and games are trying to like mesh canon, but everything else is kind of out there. So if someone wanted to make a claim that Archie Sonic the Hedgehog's real name is Maurice, they would have some ground to stand on. If it is pre-Genesis wave where we erased all the canon, then yes, absolutely. Post-Genesis wave, uncertain. Anything IDW, movies, any animation, no, completely not, and never has been. Anything that is actually like Sega licensed, that's not even on their radar. Also, side note, the name Ogilvy, spelled with one less L than Penders did, it's actually a disease of the colon. Ken Penders hates Sonic the Hedgehog, and there's ample evidence to prove that. Trying to give somebody who's supposed to be like the coolest person you ever met the worst name possible is the least of what Penders did to Sonic the Hedgehog. So there you go. The next time that you see somebody saying Sonic's real name is Maurice, you know that their information is from 1997 at best.